All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get to our second series of the night, the final series of Week 1 of the Global Games. It is going to be Brazil taking on Indonesia. Now, Brazil is represented by Legolas, Coglarine, Loxodontes, and Leomane. Corey, you want to talk us through Indonesia?
Indonesia is represented by Nexoc 40, Vertigo, Resdan, and Liga Game Joth, who I think we're just going to be referring to as Joth going forward. Liga Game used to be the team that he represented.
It actually still is, yeah.
Still is?
Yep, he's on the Liga Game Esports Club, which actually originates from Jakarta, capital region of Indonesia. So, yeah, we'll just go ahead and call him Joth, but this is actually a battle that has been years in the making, Cora.
Tell me why, Rob.
Okay, listen. Okay, so Indonesia has like 17,000 plus islands, right?
It's a lot of islands.
They have way more islands than Brazil. In one of Brazil's scant islands, Snake Island, you literally can't even go to. You're actually like forbidden to go to there by the Brazilian government because it's just so full of venomous snakes. So yeah, that's the point for Indonesia. But I want to point out now that Indonesia is widely considered second in the world in terms of biodiversity. So that's all the different types of flora and fauna. And guess who's number one, Cora?
I don't know, man. Is it Brazil?
It's Brazil. The Amazon. Yeah, I'm sorry. I geek out over this kind of stuff. You can see Indonesia and Brazil up here on the screen. But so this is, that's a point for each of them. And this feud was only ever going to be settled in the tavern.
It's the only possible place that you can decide. I've got more islands. I've got better flora and fauna. Where can we figure this age-old feud out? It's going to be in the tavern.
I would say that is in the future where everyone should settle their differences. Just take it inside.
Absolutely.
That wasn't scripted.
That wasn't. That was just a TJ and Nathan moment purely off of divine intervention. So here we can see the teams representing Brazil and Indonesia and their class picks. Again, all 9 classes are represented, 2 for each player, and then the ace gets to pick up the 9th. So game number 1 is going to be Loxodontis taking on Vertigo, Paladin Shaman, and Warrior Paladin.
All right, now both of these teams representing Group A. Let's go ahead and take a look at where we're sitting at this point. As we mentioned earlier, Sweden got off to the hot hand. They are currently 1-0 in Group A. China unfortunately fell 0-1, and that was something that was a little bit surprising. Some people, a lot of the pro player community, had actually predicted was going to take that series. So hats off to Sweden. For China, got to go back and figure out what they can do differently. But after this match, we will know a little bit more about Group A as Brazil sets to square off against Indonesia.
And of course, Brazil is my pick going into this tournament, but Indonesia, I'm really excited to see how they perform, just because we simply don't know a lot about them as a team or as individuals, as a nation representing the Hearthstone Global Games.
Yeah, I actually reached out because we want to make sure, when we're representing these countries up here on the desk that, we take the time to talk to those players. So I spoke to Nexoc 40 a little bit as he is the team anchor and also the team captain, and kind of asked him, what is Indonesia looking to prove in this tournament? For him, he feels like, people look at Indonesia and they immediately underrate them. They don't think that they can necessarily compete. And, Brazil's a powerhouse. As I mentioned, South America is coming hard in this tournament. So for Indonesia, the name of the game is coming out here in proving that they can compete with the best.
Well, game number 1, going to be Loxodontis on the Shaman and Vertigo on the Warrior. Of course, Warrior, Quest Warrior, and Pirate Warrior are the 2 big builds that we've been discussing today. And then the Shaman, we just saw Elemental Shaman from Snail take out the Priest from Joan. I imagine we'll see an Elemental Shaman again, although I don't want to write off Murloc Shaman. It's a decent deck. I just think Elemental Shaman is definitely the way to go here.
Yeah, I want to point out, too, in terms of the delta between these 2 players, Loxodontes is someone who has been all over Copa America. He represents Keep Gaming along with some other of his countrymen. So, he is playing in all kinds of open tournaments, and he actually won a Copa America season. That's absurd. Vertigo, on the other hand, is very new to competing. This is something for him where he hasn't necessarily put in as many hours, had as much experience as Loxodontes. So Loxodontes, as we look here, won the 2016 Copa America Grand Finals, has earned 26 Hearthstone Championship Tour points in 2016, and competed in a few HCT preliminaries. Loxodontes plays for the Brazilian Hearthstone team Keep Gaming alongside Brazilian players Correa and Ness. And if you're thinking, I recognize Correa, actually played in the 2015 Americas Championship.
Yeah, Correa is a very well-known Latin American and South American player. And then here we look at Vertigo. Doesn't have much competitive Hearthstone experience, but super excited to be here. And that is incredibly important. If you have that drive, then you are going to represent your country well. loves visiting the Hearthstone community HSID in Indonesia, and he also loves satay. It is skewered and grilled meat.
I'm glad we're talking about the important stuff with this tournament.
It's just teams of carnivores and shorts wearers.
I mean, isn't that what's good in life? Yeah.
I mean, I'm wearing pants, but I can get behind shorts. Same.
Yeah. But again, Vertigo's coming into this, and I think you hit on a big point. Yeah, if you're coming in and you're clearly way less experienced than your opponent, having that attitude of, okay, I'm going to see, obviously your goal is to win, but if you don't, what can you learn from your opponent? What can you learn from playing against someone of that caliber? And do you have the mindset to absorb that loss and kind of go, okay, this is how I'm going to get better. These were the mistakes I made, as opposed to just writing it off to, something you couldn't control. So very eager to see what Vertigo does, not even just in this match, but also in the coming weeks of the tournament.
It is very interesting to me that they decided to put Vertigo first in the lineup, as he admitted that he is not really experienced in competitive Hearthstone play. And usually you want to lead strong. We saw Australia leading with Naviute, and of course Argentina leading with Pei and Sei, two very experienced players. So for Vertigo to be kicking off this match for Indonesia, he's got a lot to prove.
Yeah, and that's a tight-knit group over there again. So it's one of those things where, even though Vertigo may say, I don't have the most experience, like, hey, you know what? You got this. Go out there, give it a shot. We believe it. Let's talk about Vertigo.
Can I just have this moment for myself?
Yeah. So we are going to see Shaman versus Warrior. As we've seen thus far tonight, we've seen 2 Quest Warriors and we've seen an Elemental Shaman. I'd really like to see Murloc Shaman. I don't know if we are necessarily going to see it, but
we can keep dreaming.
I actually don't think it's I think it's an underrated deck, much like Indonesia is an underrated team. I think there's a lot of upside. And yes!
Oh!
We're going to unite the Murlocs. I'm so excited.
You god. Okay, this is going to be a game for the ages. Unite the Murlocs Quest Shaman up against the Quest Warrior.
All right, let me walk you through this. Imagine a world where you played a lot of Murlocs. Okay, are you still with me?
1 second. I'm there.
Okay. And then you play 10 Murlocs, you get a giant Murloc.
Okay, how big?
It is an 8/8 Murloc for 5 mana. And,
that's big.
Okay, it also refills your hand with random Murlocs.
How many Murlocs?
That's 10 Murlocs.
That's a lot of Murlocs.
That is a lot of Murlocs. It's, like I said, Mega Fin is mega fun. This is one of those decks that I actually had an alarmingly high win rate with, and I stopped playing because, I wanted to see the rest of the meta. I wanted to try out some other stuff, but I'm pretty sure I clocked it at having like a 68 or, 67% win rate.
Oh dear, that's like approximately 2/3 of your games.
Yeah.
That's pretty strong.
And I think more importantly, it has an okay chance against Quest Warrior.
I think that is the most important thing going into this matchup. But certainly Indonesia's best tools fighting against these early Murlocs are going to be Fiery War Axe, Ravaging Ghoul, and Slam. So 3 great cards early in the hand for Vertigo.
Yeah, the way you want to approach this as the Murloc player is you just basically just want to go like full out. You just want to play as many Murlocs as possible. You want them to just expend resources because they don't really have a lot of great card draw, right? It's Acolyte of Pain, it's Shield Block. So once you get them to use those resources, that's about the time you're activating Megafin. That's when you're like, okay, well, here's a whole bunch more Murlocs. And depending on your draw off of Megafin, you can just get like some zany stuff here. You can get Murloc War Leader, Bluegills. You can get Murlocs that allow you to discover other Murlocs. It's just a child's joy.
You've got a big smile on your face. It just sounds like this is a deck that you thoroughly enjoy. And of course, the Taunt Warrior has the natural removal in the form of Brawl, which if they're able to run the Unite the Murloc Shaman out of Murlocs and out of cards in hand, they're just going to win the game. But Loxodontis doesn't really have any other win condition other than just go ham with Murlocs and go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's... Look, if Vertigo survives the onslaught past, like, turn 10 or 11, he's probably got this. But there's a pretty solid chance he just gets run over by Murlocs. I really think this is going to be kind of a thing where people are like, oh, Unite the Murloc, maybe it isn't necessarily that strong. I could just play Elemental Shaman, but look, you got options.
Options are never a bad thing.
Yeah, we see in hand for Loxodontis, Primal Fin Totem. This is another one of my cards from the set that I really enjoy. So it's a 2-mana 0/3 totem. And at the end of each turn, it summons a 1/1 Murloc. So that Murloc, no fancy bells or whistles. It's just a little Murloc with a stick. It's coming to get you. But it counts towards the number of Murlocs you need to have for the quest. And it pretty much demands attention. Like you are saying, okay, you're going to have to use a Fiery War Axe charge on this.
Yeah, actually, this totem is one of the better cards I really enjoy coming out of Journey to Un'Goro. Great in Arena, and of course slots right perfectly into this Unite the Murlocs Shaman build. And then of course Call in the Finishers, shining in this deck. It summons 4 1/1 Murlocs. They all count towards the quest. There's a lot of ways to play one card and sort of cheat the amount of Murlocs that come out of that card.
Yeah, we see Loxodontes here. You know, you're thinking probably at home like, hey, play a Murloc. Come on, play the totem, play the bluegill, whatever you're gonna do. But you know, it's one of those things where he's trying to map out these turns. We see Barnes. That's not an inclusion I've seen thus far in many of these lists. You know, obviously it does probably summon another Murloc, so that gets you closer to your quest goal. But I'm trying to think what, you know, high roll potentials would you be looking for off of that. Bluegill Murloc stands out to me. Maybe Murloc War Leader. Anything that just has charge or instantly buffs the board.
Also, the 1-mana Murloc that gains +1 attack for every Murloc that you play. Maybe that can help you get in some fancy damage there. So Barnes certainly makes sense in this list, but it's definitely a couple different cards that I think we're used to seeing in the Murloc Shaman. But that, again, just goes towards the point that none of these decks are perfect yet. Everything is still in the developmental stage, and everything is still being refined. Taunt Warrior, however, seems like it's getting pretty close to finding the ideal build.
Yeah, shout out to Ray C, who's really put in a lot of work into kind of refining that list. He has some great guides out there if you're looking, you know, at how you at home can cheat and play a bunch of taunts. Ray C's got you covered.
He knows how to cheat death, and he knows how to cheat out some taunt minions. That is what Ray C really shines at. Gentle Megasaur. Yeah. It is the Adapt All Murlocs.
It is absolutely backbreaking. When you have a board full of Murlocs, there have been more than games that I can count on hand where the dinosaurs come down. I'm like, dinosaur, make my Murlocs hit harder. And I'll get +3 attack, and they just go. They're just like, wow, this is the worst day of my life if I'm playing against this.
It is important to note that Adapt All Murlocs gives all of your Murlocs the same adapt choice. So if you get Wind Fury for one of them, you get Wind Fury for all of them. You do not get to choose what they all have individually.
It's a very satisfying thing visually. Even if you don't necessarily get the choice you want, there was a point where I made all my Murlocs stealthed, and I was like, oh, they're all Finge's disciples. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, Finge is in this deck as well. Just what everyone wants. More Finge.
Oh, yes.
All right,
Sounds
Rock
like
Pool
a dream.
Hunter, a new minion for Un'Goro. You know, pretty straightforward, +1/1. Visually, I love his card art. That's just the way to live, you know, just kind of walking around with your stick, just buffing other Murlocs, hitting people. I'm a simple man, Core. I like simple things.
Rob, I have to stand next to you for, like, the next 10 weeks, and now you're talking about hitting people, and
Nah,
I don't know.
production won't give me a stick. They know better.
Maybe...
There's flags behind us.
Oh, well. It has to be a stick. Vertigo, in the meantime, kind of figuring out how he wants to approach this. The Murlocs are slowly but steadily coming, and Vertigo has to kind of figure out if there's a way he can get onto the board. And the thing is, Taunt Warrior doesn't necessarily do it that quickly. Like, yeah, you have Stonehill Defender. You can put that on the board, but that dies pretty easily to Murlocs. You have Bloodhoof Brave. That can get on the board, and that can cause problems. But Alley Armorsmith is really where you first start kind of giving the Murlocs problems. Now, again, since we can't see the list, we don't know if Loxodontes is running any kind of taunt or anything like that. But in the version I run, that's usually where my taunt goes, to an Alley Armorsmith.
So many choices.
I mean, the Taunt Warrior build is just so straightforward that the game plan it's trying to execute, you know, with all likelihood, the best play that they would have every turn and what they're trying to do. And when they get that quest, well, they probably just win the game. So, the Murloc Shaman, this matchup actually really...
It's good.
I'm very interested in.
Again, in my limited experience, it is one that I feel like the Murloc Shaman actually has a pretty good matchup for. All right, there's the +3 attack, and I say let's get him.
Of course you do. And
Well, I mean, +3 health, you know, actually, not joking for a second, I think there's some merit to +3 health. Wind Fury, I don't think you're really getting the most bang for your buck here, but I think you could go +3 attack and feel good about it, although your opponent not being on low health, it's kind of one of those situations where I believe, aside from the Megasaur, both of those Murlocs have 1 health, so you're kind of just begging to get Ravaging Gould at that point. So maybe the health is good, and then you try to get to a point where you're like, all right, I have my War Leader, I'm ready to go. These Murlocs are very durable, they're sustainable. Yeah, the more I think about it, I want Rocky Carapace. Yep.
They agree. Just trying to decide, do we want that fast damage now, or do we think we can get more damage over the long haul by extending our Murloc's health? And ultimately, that's what Brazil decides to go with. And now Vertigo is going to have a little bit of a tougher time removing this board. It just feels so bad to have to execute a 2-mana minion or Shield Slam.
I mean, that Murloc's got a stake. You can't just leave him up. That's a problem. Execute
It's
is
scary.
the solution. Yeah.
Execute is the solution. It looked like Vertigo was considering Shield Lock, Shield Slam on the Megasaur.
No, I actually, despite Vertigo not having the most experience, I really like the amount of restraint he's showing. He's not just tossing out like one spell to one Murloc per easily. Like he's waiting for something come down or something to come down that is actually just a threat. And he's like, okay, now I'm going to use one of my removals because he understands that there is such a premium in this matchup.
Well, and it is important to note, again, teams are allowed to communicate with each other. So although these men are playing alone, it looks like they are on comms likely with their teammates,
Sure.
which is why these turns are taking longer than Standardachi's turns, that's for sure. Because they're debating, well, this is what I have, what is the best play here, and they're really talking that through. So really happy to see that.
Yeah, and I feel like whenever I've seen some of the Brazilian guys in the past playing, I feel like they've taken their turns a little bit quickly for my liking. So, you know what? Hey, you're here. Enjoy it. You're competing at a high level. Just make sure to take the full turn length. It means I get to hang out with you more, Cora. So obviously,
I know you love that.
I'm extremely excited about that.
Until we get Cardboard Cora online.
Cardboard Cora is the best invention that chat can't know about just yet.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, chat. Maybe later.
One day.
All right, so looks like Loxodon is just thinking about playing down the Primal Fin Totem. Cold Light Seer isn't terrible, but I don't necessarily know that you're getting too much value out of it, so probably okay to skip. Doesn't choose to use the Totem. Is that strictly to play around Brawl, you think?
I would have to think so. Honestly, I wouldn't be too upset if this board were brawled for me. I think, yeah, you'd like to get Cold Light Seer off in the next turn and get some really hardy Murlocs on the board, but if this draws a brawl, great. That means that when I drop Megafin, the Murlocs in my hand likely aren't getting removed. So, yeah, maybe some restraint shown there by Brazil. I don't think the Totem would have done too much good either way.
Yeah, they need to start getting to the point soon where they're going to finish the quest. They're going to get the Megafin, get the reload, get the 8/8. We do see a Dire Horn Hatchling come out, which is even cuter when
So
it's
cute.
animated.
I don't have one of those golden yet, but man, I'm just getting Land Before Time vibes, and it's
Yeah.
great. I'm super happy about it.
I really wish Dire Horn Hatchling was just a pet I can or a pet I can have in real life. That's a pretty cute dinosaur.
That's a pretty good dinosaur.
Now, over on Loxodon's side, he's also probably thinking about that cute dinosaur.
He's like, do I kill it? Am I a bad person?
Could I not kill it? Could I just leave it up? He does have the Lightning Bolt, though, so there is a world where he spends all his mana this turn, just goes Bluegill Warrior, Cold Light Seer, buffs up the health of these Murlocs, commits a Lightning Bolt. It looks like...
Rob, you must be psychic.
I don't know if he's going to actually play the Seer here. The Seer is a very valuable resource in this, because there's a point where you essentially say, listen, the only way you get back to this board is Brawl. So I really do respect holding it here, but I think... I don't know. I don't know if playing not playing a Totem is necessarily the best way to approach this every turn, because I do think the Taunt Totem is fairly relevant. You've only seen one War Axe. I don't know. Maybe it's fine.
Well, you know what? It's consistent with the game plan they went for on the turn prior. This is actually exactly the same board that Loxodontis had before his last turn.
Yeah.
So,
It's also worth noting that if he played a Totem and he got called in the finishers...
yeah, then you could not.
Yeah, so that's another point. I'm just trying to wrap my head around like why you wouldn't do that, but I think that's pretty fair. Okay, this is now this is good. I think this is the time you commit the Cold Light Seer.
Murloc War Leader is probably the best Murloc in the game. +2/+1 to all Murlocs on the board, and the biggest combo piece that a deck like this has. It turns Call in the finishers. It turns these 1/1 Murlocs off of the Totem into something that you can actually go offensive with or use as great value trades.
Yeah, pretty good assessment there. I just think the way your hand's going, like, okay, you need to start working with the resources you have. You're not playing Barnes yet for some reason, and on this turn it just doesn't work since you don't want to play Totems anyway. I think it's just time to go.
getting very close to completing the quest as well for Loxodontes. But I do respect the amount of patience being shown here.
I say no more patience.
I say go time.
Get
No,
him.
he disagrees.
Okay.
I think this is still a very strong board, to be
never
fair.
Cold Light Seer.
Feels bad, Seer.
Poor Seer.
I
Seer
mean,
and
if-
Barnes are just hanging out like, when's our day going to come?
If you can draw out a brawl with this board, where most of your power has been coming from a 2-mana totem that's just stuck around for like 4 turns, I think you're okay with that. Like, yes, this board looks strong. It's deceptive.
Deceptive and easy to destroy.
What's the tagline? Like,
Yeah.
something deceptive, but
Deceptively easy.
easy. Something fun.
Insanely difficult to master.
Yeah.
All right, well, and suddenly there was one Murloc. You know how that wouldn't have happened?
Go on, tell me. How would that not have happened?
If they had more health.
Oof.
Oof. Ooh, Finja. Okay.
Well, I'd say
So-
that's probably the best thing you want to hit off Barnes. I take back my answer from before.
Yeah,
Because Finja is actually just insane.
Yeah, and this is definitely the time to commit that Cold Light Seer. Now, you've seen a Whirlwind, you've seen 2 Ghouls. There isn't too much just yet, but it also allows you to complete the quest. So, yeah, this is pretty big. Empty out that Lightning Bolt out of the hand because it would have just filled up valuable space a Murloc could have occupied. So,
I think that's actually very important as well.
Yeah.
You want to get the quest on the turn that you're emptying your hand. And this was really the first opportunity for Loxodontes to play Barnes, and it wouldn't have cluttered up the board too much.
yeah, Vertigo suddenly in a kind of bad way. Although, if he Dirty Rats the Mega Fin,
Oh, no!
this is disgusting. Loxodontes. We've all been robbed.
No!
All right, so, yeah, this is pretty much just how you lose as the person playing Unite the
crap.
Murlocs.
That's awful.
All right, so, okay, taking a step back now, you still have anything. You basically play now like Brawl doesn't exist, Deathwing doesn't exist. Those cards, not in that deck. You can still draw a couple of Murlocs out of your deck. Hope you get that second War Leader. Hope you get a Bluegill. But yeah, that is absolutely terrible.
I mean, you never want to say it's over, but,
Unless you're in a relationship you don't want to be in anymore. Then you want to say it's over.
okay.
Sure.
Fair. So there are some situations where you want to say it's over.
Thank you, Cora. Just ask for a little bit of recognition sometimes.
Whatever you say, Rob. I'm happy to help.
All right, so let's see what we get. Okay, Cold Light Seer and Rockpool Hunter not going to get it done. So, all right, Loxodontes has the big board. He's just basically saying no Deathwing, no Brawl. He's going to get some pretty
man.
bad news here.
Yeah, Drakefish is
Yep.
you know one of those times where you want to say it's over. Yeah, this is now. It's done.
Yeah, I didn't. I was so keen on the Deathwing, but that does it too. And Vertigo's
Vertigo
celebrating.
breaking a smile.
Loxodontes, in all honesty, will never break through that 4-8, let alone hit face. This is the...
But what about a 0-1?
I said he wouldn't break through a 4-8. He can break through an 0-1.
Unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be going down 0-1.
Damn.
Thanks,
Brutal.
Rob.
Wrecked. Savage. Oh, Paul's not watching. Yeah, I mean, okay, 4-8 down, but...
Now we have a very long way to go.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen for
Nope.
Brazil.
At least in this one. There's just one game. And I want to point out, like, when we evaluate the merit of this deck versus Elemental Shaman, I want to point out they were, this was going fine until that Dirty Rat. That Dirty Rat came off the top, and look, 2 copies of Dirty Rat are in Tom. You just know that. But, yeah, I was really fortunate for Vertigo. But, yeah, Vertigo was very judicious with his resources and ended up getting that win pretty handily. So congratulations to Vertigo. And that's got to feel pretty good as someone who we were just saying kind of comes in here as way less of a competitor, at least in terms of overall record, than someone like Loxodontes.
Absolutely. Vertigo, I was musing on the fact that Indonesia picked a player who admitted he doesn't have much competitive Hearthstone experience to take the lead in this series, but he did a great job. He picked up a win. He put Indonesia on the fast track to win this match and keep my 0 and many record of correct predictions in the Hearthstone world.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Vertigo for when he actually had that moment where he got the dirty rat. We saw he was very excited. We saw the fist go up. Honestly, it's something that never gets old. Not on the community team anymore, but as someone who is more community focused in general, seeing that level of excitement when someone gets that big play and someone gets the win, it never gets old for me. So hats off to you, Vertigo. Cool to see. But we are ready to get into match number 2. It is going to be Leo Main taking on Nexoc 40. We mentioned earlier, Nexoc 40 is the anchor and captain for Indonesia. So he's kind of coming in here. He's saying, Vertigo, you've done your job. Time for me to do mine.
Pass the torch. This is like a Hearthstone relay race.
Yep.
And now Vertigo has run his lap, and it's time for Nexoc 40 to take over and try to take down Leo Main, the druid up against the shaman for Nexoc. Do you think it's going to be another Murloc shaman, or is it likely just to be the safer bet, which is the elemental jade package?
I'm going to say probably the elemental shaman. It seems like, and this is an observation that's mostly just anecdotal evidence,
yeah.
But in the time I've been casting, it really does seem like Asia Pacific, specifically as a region, really values those kind of more mid-range shaman builds. So that's what I would guess, but again, we don't know. On the other hand, I do want to call out, and this may be a story it feels like we're repeating over the course of the global games, but Leo Main is the sort of player who is out there constantly on ladder. He's out there constantly competing. He is good to go. This guy is an absolute terror, so very excited to see what Leo Main can do. Nexoc 40, though, he has some backup this time.
He's got a friend. Certainly, it's nice to have other people around you when you're playing Hearthstone. Whether or not that's one of his co-teammates, we'll have to see. Moving on.
I just want to point out Nexoc 40 is wearing the School of Face Studies shirt, which I am desperately trying to find a copy of. But, Coral, why don't you talk about Leo Main a little bit?
All right, so Leo Main. He's competed in every HCT championship, preliminary, playoff, as they're now known, since 2014. That's quite a lot of preliminaries and playoffs. Top 8, 2015 Copa America Grand Finals, and top 8 at the 2017 HCT Americas Winter Playoffs. So just one round off. And then Leo Main, top 10 HCT point earners for Brazil. So very impressive stuff.
You
from
could
him.
just literally say for Leo Main's biography, numbers, won a lot of things, competed, plays at a high level.
So close.
That's
but
exactly
not
what it
quite.
says. Yeah, he's looking for that big breakout performance. Nexoc 40, on the other hand, competed in the 2015 Last Call qualifier for the World Championship and the 2 Southeast Asia preliminaries in 2016, so he's putting himself out there. Nexoc 40 was the third highest Hearthstone Championship Tour point earner from Indonesia in 2016, and his favorite food dish is called pasel, which is a mixed vegetable salad with peanut sauce dressing. No meat.
Sounds good to me.
No meat.
It sounds good.
I'm trying to root for you, Nexoc,
You know,
but I don't
Rob,
know.
you need to have greens in your diet. It's good for you.
I have heard this so much recently because I'm turning 30 in like 2 weeks, and people are like, Rob, you're not a young man anymore. No, meat always.
I mean, you're not old, and certainly that's admirable. Proved that eating your protein and your healthy greens can do a world of good.
Maybe I'll consider it when I've just given up on
just balance,
a
Rob.
life of joy. But Nexoc, I will not begrudge you your choices. You're a cool guy. Enjoyed talking to you. As I said earlier, he feels like Indonesia is coming in here underrated. And, being honest, rightfully so. I don't think Indonesia's really had a performance to speak of, even within the Asia-Pacific region, that really necessarily merits a call-out. So I think they have a lot to prove here. And going up against Brazil, a team full of players who have just been playing forever, been getting high results, high finishes, and are just always creeping further and further to the point of really the main stage, this is a great opportunity for Indonesia to come in and show what they're made of to the rest of the world.
Yeah, Brazil and Leo Main, close but no cigar, I think is the story of their Hearthstone careers. And then Indonesia, underrated and unknown. Yep. I would have to say, I just did not know any of these players going into this tournament. Having done some research, now we're more familiar. But certainly they have a lot to prove, and this is going to be an old-school Jade Druid for Leo Main, and that Elemental Jade package for Nexoc 40. Jade Druid was a Druid build that I grossly left out of the options, and that was terrible of me, because certainly Jade Druid is very viable still.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about decks with inevitability. Gadgets and Auctioneer keep cycling into the Jade spell, the 1-mana Jade spell, and you're good. You just keep making increasingly large minions, and you just drown your opponent in golems.
Feral Rage coming into hand. Interesting to see that card chosen over the recent 1-mana addition from Journey to Ungoro. Gonna need to see how it plays out for Leomane and the Brazilian team.
Yeah, I mean, I think the flexibility you get from Feral Rage maybe justifies the fact that sometimes you're getting less health, you're not buffing a minion, because you can actually deal with an early board. Feral Rage, though, kind of to me feels a little bit of a relic from an age where you had to have an answer to Totem Golem, you have to have an answer to Frothing Berserker, so I agree it's an interesting inclusion. Would expect to see Fandral here, though, which can definitely help you get value out of it.
Yeah, Fandral is certainly a huge reason why you would want to be playing Feral Rage, because then you, in a lot of cases, can get 4 attack and 8 armor instead of just armor and a +1/+1 buff.
Man, I love seeing Nexoc40 and the crew in that bottom window. They're just sitting there laughing, having a good time. It seems like so far in the global games, when we've seen teams come together, they've always been sitting, they've always been laughing and having a good time. So, you know, win or lose, you get to hang out with your friends. You're competing for some prize money for the pride of your region. It's just overall a really cool experience and something awesome to see.
Hearthstone is best when played with friends, and though it is a digital card game, there are plenty of opportunities to get together with others and play at a LAN event or, you know, just in your buddy's house.
Yeah.
Because you're all playing in the same tournament.
You know, just recently, fireside gatherings were buffed in the most recent patch. There's some
Oh,
stuff
they
coming
were?
down. Yeah. Take some time to go out there and see where you can meet up and play with your friends. It can be a very social game, but looking at the game itself, Indonesia running an elemental shaman, as you said, that also features some of the Jade package. Probably just looking at Jade Claws, Jade Lightning, and Eye of Blackpaw. Those are the standout cards at this point. You know, you're probably not going to see Jade Chieftain. I want to point out that since Brand Bronzebeard is now in Wild, it definitely makes Jade a little bit weaker because you can't really have like those crippling mid-game turns where you say, you know, play Bran, play the Jade Claws, get like a 3/3 and a 4/4, which all at once is just so much tempo. So I think that may be why we're seeing people switch over more towards that elemental version.
Yeah, it definitely hurts Jade Shaman as its own archetype. Mid-range Jade Shaman we were seeing quite a bit of pre-Ungoro in the various tournaments, and it was very strong, it was very reactive, but definitely Brand Bronzebeard was a large instigator for why that deck was viable. With Jade Druid, you have Jade Idol, you have Jade Behemoth. The Jade package in this deck is just naturally much stronger than in the Jade Shaman, so the loss of Brand definitely hurts, but you can still build your Jades very, very large without him.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good synopsis of that. I do want to point out Nexoc40 and the gang just played down Igneous Elemental. That is a new card to Journey to Ungoro. It is a 3-mana 2/3 that when it dies, puts 2 Flame Elementals in your hand. And those are just 1/2, so you may be thinking, okay, well, those aren't necessarily super big. But, you know, for a class like Shaman, which has Flame Tongue Totem, suddenly small cards become big. It can also be a cheap enabler for cards like Blade Caller, Kalimos the Primal Lord. So Igneous Elemental is one of those cards where personally I'm still evaluating if it justifies in that kind of crowded 3 spot for Shaman, but it's definitely an interesting proposition.
This card is the bane of my existence. I've been playing against so much Quest Rogue, as I'm sure a lot of you have, with the ladder being flooded with it, and this card creating 2 Flame Elementals is just so very difficult to shut down. And getting those cheap elemental activators in Shaman is incredibly valuable. Like you said, being able to slot them in on a turn before you play Blaze Caller, before you play Servant of Kalimos. It's really, really important to have those activators in this deck, which is very dependent on them.
Yeah, it absolutely makes or breaks your elemental deck, the ability to have cheap activators. So, like I said, curious to see how this plays out. Meanwhile, on the board, Leomane is really curving quite nicely into that ramped mana curve. You know, we see Druid of the Claw coming out in bear form. We saw a 2/3 and a 1. Okay, so these are interesting choices. I have to think Kalimos is always the take. But as much as Kalimos can do a wide range of things, it's worth noting that I don't really feel like he's necessarily as powerful until the end of the game when you're basically looking for that 6 damage shutout. Because what he does on the board, especially against a class, you know, like Druid playing the Jade package, 3 damage to the whole of the board by the time you can reasonably play Kalimos is kind of underwhelming.
It's not nearly as good as it would be in other matchups. I think Kalimos is still the take here just because it's so difficult to deny.
Absolutely.
just how incredible he is as a card. Hot Spring Guardian, I think, was also an option. It gives you a cheaper minion to be able to fit in over the course of your next few turns, which is important because your hand is very reactive right now. 2 Maelstrom Portals and a Lightning Storm, it's going to clean up the early Jades, but there is a barrier to how good those cards are the longer this game goes.
So you would not consider Stormwatcher at all?
I actually quite like Stormwatcher.
Same.
He's fantastic in Arena. 8 health is really hard to get over. I don't think in this case he's a pick.
Oh, that's fair. I really like Stormwatcher. I think I think people could take a flyer on him. He's not nearly as weak as he might appear. He does, when you first look at him, just scream Arena card.
Yeah.
But I definitely think there's some value to Stormwatcher. Nexok's hand, as you pointed out, is just pretty much reactive. He's kind of waiting to get to those later turns, and if he doesn't draw another elemental prior to 7, he's going to play a Blaze Caller as a 7-mana 6/6, which you don't have to be a genius to know that's definitely not what you want to be doing.
Well, fortunately, this Igneous Elemental Death Rattle will put 2 1/2 1-mana cost elemental cards in hand. So the Indonesian team is going to be looking to kill this card off quickly and then plan out their next few turns with the help of those Flame Elementals.
Yeah. And we see here they're considering just Lightning Storm, and I would imagine possibly just following it up with a Maelstrom Portal. Oh. Okay, so at this point...
Not terrible.
Yeah, you're pretty much at this point just hoping there's no Nourish that comes off the Fandral, because that would be a huge problem, but... All right, Maelstrom Portal comes out. That is going to put those Flame Elementals in the hand. Light Warden, let's just be honest, it's a 1/2.
It's better than a 1/1.
Yeah, that's true. That is statistically accurate.
Thank you, Rob.
I'm glad to be able to... I give you the Twitter check mark on that one. That's verified.
I'm going to take that one home with me.
Yeah.
Frame it. Certainly Nourish would be the absolute most backbreaking card to come out here for Leo main. Jade Idol is good enough. I'd say you definitely want that to come down this turn. And Feral Rage, well, it seems like there's a lot of value here. I think you might actually want the 4 attack later on in the game, so I don't think you play that this turn.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that one. I don't want to just agree, but thinking about Feral Rage, the 4 damage, I think you reach a certain point where what is the Shaman really playing that is 4 health?
Hot Spring Guardian is pretty much
Yeah, I mean...
what you're looking at.
I guess you're thinking maybe more you combo it into something else.
Yeah.
So Leo main feels similarly, decides to go ahead and hold the Feral Rage for now, and I think that's completely fair. You're really not actually accomplishing anything.
He holds the Jade Idol as well, which I think is very telling that, well, one of two things. Either he doesn't think that Indonesia has 1 damage removal on the Fandral this turn, which they do have the second Maelstrom Portal, or there's other cards in his deck that he would rather draw at this point than other copies of Jade Idol.
Yeah. I mean, that's usually how it goes when you don't just jam the Jade Idol when you have Fandral down. You're basically saying to yourself, okay, this is just kind of at a point where, realistically, I don't want to be drawing this. Burgly Bully. Now that is an interesting inclusion in Jade Druid.
That absolutely is. It's something that we, up until this point, have only seen in, like, Reno Mage. 5 mana 4/6, whenever your opponent plays a spell, put a coin into your hand. I can see where it would be useful in this deck. It's an interesting inclusion.
Yeah, it's definitely...
If you're playing Gadgets and Auctioneer,
right,
it's great.
And it has a lot of matchups where it's going to shine maybe more brightly than it would in certain matchups. You know, if you're running into Zoo a lot, you're probably not going to play Burgly Bully. You're looking for very specific decks that play a decent amount of spells, and I think Shaman's fair. Shaman's kind of middle of the pack there. You know, that said, you've already seen 2 Maelstrom Portals. You've already seen a Lightning Storm, so you've seen a pretty good bit of what you imagine is kind of in this mid-range Shaman deck.
In the same vein, though, if this draws a Hex, I think that's pretty good. That's a Hex that may not be going at your Eye of Blackpaw. So I think the Burgly Bully actually fits in quite well. We were seeing 2 Druid of the Claws in a lot of Jade builds prior to Ungoro. Maybe you just remove one of those, go for the same 5 mana 4/6 stat line, and think that the coins are going to be more useful than Taunt or the ability to charge.
Yeah, so Indonesia has kind of an interesting turn here. They feel like they have to get the value from the Elemental synergy. Can't blame them for that. Unfortunately, they were unable to deal with Burgly Bully, but the upside of Burgly Bully is it's just a 4/6 on their turn. You're not having to worry about that power being activated, so getting a 6/6 on the board is pretty good, and Leo main in a position that a lot of time Druid doesn't find themselves in, which is low in cards.
Yeah, this is very unusual. They haven't drawn Nourish yet,
Yep.
or Gadgets and Auctioneer, so that's going to be their main card draw in the build. And Indonesia has just been very intelligently utilizing their resources this game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where as the Elemental Shaman player, like you have big power turns coming up. So long as you just allow yourself to get to those turns. That said, you do know that Jade Druid will eventually run you off the board and end the game if you don't deal with them in a timely manner. But this mid-range point is really about when the Elemental Shaman seems to hit its power spike thus far. So, yeah, maybe if you run Pirates, it's a little different. The version Boar Control runs that I've been playing has Corsair and it has patches. But yeah, this is pretty much the pace that I think Indonesia wants to be going at.
Well, the choice to keep the Feral Rage for later, coming in very hot for Brazil, able to remove that Blaze Collar and really just trying to get value off of this Burgly Bully if they possibly can.
Yeah, and at 18 health, you're not really very low here, but 4 damage over multiple turns can start to stack up.
It means something. It's valuable.
Yeah, the question Indonesia has to start asking themselves is kind of when is enough, and do we foresee a situation where Hex is going to be more valuable? And obviously, knowing what Jade Druid does, you do realize that there are going to be bigger fish to fry, so to speak. But is it going to matter by the time you finally get to that point?
Well, that's certainly what they have to be figuring out here, but there is just so much value in hand for Indonesia. Nexoc 40 going to be pretty much playing an Elemental every turn from here on out, and there is another Kalamos Primal Lord.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Let's just take Kalamos.
It's just so good.
I mean, or you could take something that does 3 damage, just period, or you could take Kalamos. I think you take Kalamos.
I think I like Kalamos. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, look, Fire Elemental has a little white gem. Kalamos
yeah.
has an orange gem.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That must mean he's good.
And
And I mean, like you said,
Hemet Nessingwary.
yes, Emmett Nessingware, he's so good. Like you said, eventually the Jade Druid, they have that inevitability factor where the golems grow just so large, and if you have Jade Idol plus Gadgets and Auctioneer, you cycle till the cows come home, and you build up that huge board state. But looking at Nexoc 40's hand right now, it is so full of value, removal, board pressure, everything that they could possibly want, except for really AoE clear, which wouldn't even matter at this point, because Brazil's minions are going to be getting too large.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point there. And okay, Jade Behemoth comes down. This is definitely something Leo Main wanted to see. He can also cycle here. He has broken the cardinal rule of Hearthstone, and he
Leo
cycled
Main.
last. Leo, man, come on.
Nah, he's actually going to keep the excess mana. That's something that is really fantastic to have if
With the
you draw
Gadgets
into that Gadgets and Auctioneer. That big if being the factor here.
The point of the story being people watching that Leo Main has a plan here, so,
Don't knock him.
I don't want to see any of that
playing
draw
wild growth
last.
here. No, this
fail
was
finish.
absolutely correct by him.
Yeah. That's what he's going to need to get back into this game, is an explosive Gadgets and turn. So definitely heads up play from him, realizing what he needs to do to, progress his agenda. Now on 9 mana, Indonesia, you see Kalamos. You have 2 Kalamoses. You have Kalamai in hand.
Kalamai Primal Lord.
You just want to go. But yeah, unfortunately, not going to be the way this plays out. It is important, though, that you play another Elemental, and, Nexoc 40's health total, sub
getting
15.
pretty low.
Yeah.
The Burgly Bully sticking around for yet another turn.
Yeah, that 6 health stat line, I cannot imagine that is here because of Blaze Collar, but it is certainly doing work against Blaze Collar.
Just that 1 point of health really makes it an absolute nuisance to clear off the board. A Jade Behemoth picked up for Leo Main. It's a great card, it's a good draw, but it's not what he was looking for. He wanted Nourish or Gadgets and Auctioneer at this point because the hand size differential is just in favor of Nexoc 40 and has been for so long in this game.
Yeah, Leo Main's going to go ahead and just offer up the excess mana. He's going to say, okay, I just need to get something going. Now, he has the Innervate, so he could, play the Jade Behemoth. He could also play the Druid of the Claw if he just decides, okay, I just need to get stuff on the board now. I've seen both Blaze Collars. It looks like he's going
Blade
for the
Collar
swipe.
would be terrifying.
Yeah, I don't know we want that.
just pushing damage.
Yep.
I think Leo Main has identified, especially with the Druid of the Claw draw, he's not waiting for Gadgets and Auctioneer anymore. If he can just kill Nexoc 40, no amount of cards in Nexoc 40's hand can stop that, except Kalamos Primal Lord. I don't know if you know this. He can heal you for 12.
Yeah, I've actually... okay, I feel like most people would expect this. I mean, I actually didn't know he could do that. Because I always just hit the 6.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, we could just do 6 damage.
Deal 6 damage, deal 3 damage to your opponent's board, restore 12 health to your hero, or fill your board with 1/1 elementals.
Wow.
He's a greater healing potion.
That's really cool. I mean, I learned something today. I don't know we could do
The
that.
more you know.
I mean, I guess in this situation you heal. That's fair.
Well, I mean, there's still 9 on Leo Main's side of the board.
He has 3 Calamoses, by the way. Let that sink in. That was the first of 3.
Oh, that's 36 health.
That's too much. That's definitely cheating.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And Leo Man is just waiting for that train that doesn't appear to ever be coming into the station. He's just like, why have you forsaken me, card draw? All right.
Nourish, where art thou?
Nourish, my prince.
Sweet Nourish.
Sweet Nourish. Unfortunately, Nourish just not showing up, and Leo Man's like, okay, now we set him to 8. We got this, right?
We can totally finish this game. Oh.
He's gonna be in for some bad news. Because it's second Kalamos, the Primal Lord. He's like a bad anime villain. He just keeps coming back at this point. You're just like, why are there so many of these? All right, that's a worthy hex target. Yeah, you're giving up a coin, but I mean,
who cares?
Leo Main's on 1 card. He's not a mage. He doesn't have Antonitis, so you probably feel pretty okay about this.
Yeah, coin. I mean, you clearly know Leo Main doesn't have any card draw in hand. He would have played it by now.
Ooh, and the Style Hot Spring Guardian. Like, by the way, it's a taunt.
It's like, I don't need 12 health right now. This is good. It's good enough.
And you still have both Kalamos in hand. So it's pretty much Nourish, and I'm not even sure Nourish does anything. Okay, there's Gadget's hand. There's the coin. What do you need? What is the exact sequence of draws?
Jade Idol. Jade Idol.
Wrath. I think you need a Wrath to kill the 7/3.
Deathwing.
Jade Blossom not doing
It's
it, but you play it
okay.
anyway. You're gonna get a 6/6.
Generates a minion. That's important.
Yep. Oh, hey, look, it's that guy.
Man, that sucks.
Nourish. Game started a few minutes ago.
Just a couple, buddy. You're a little late. Fashionably late.
Unfortunate.
Maybe.
Fortunately, Leo Main still looking at a bad spot here. Okay. So the Flame Tongue Totem could come down.
Well, actually, that's just game.
Oh.
Kalamos deals 6 to face, 4 extra from the Flame Tongues. That's going to be 9, 14, 18 plus 6.
Yeah. You know what? That
I believe
just
that's
does
24. That's lethal.
it. It's pretty good. Good job,
Well,
Kalamos.
I'll be damned. Kalamos the Primal Lord. If you're playing Elemental decks, it's a pretty good card.
Leo Main looks pretty stressed out about the second Kalamos. I'm not sure what he would have done about the third one.
I think it's probably best he just doesn't know.
Don't watch the VODs, Leo Main.
You don't want to know, man. It wasn't good. It didn't end well for you.
you're
But
out
it
there-
certainly ended well for Indonesia.
I was gonna say, if you're out there watching and you know Leo Main, just shoot him a text. Be like, hey, don't watch
Don't
that.
look at it, dude.
Yeah, and Indonesia now up 2-0 on Brazil.
I mean, actually, I should have just known because I have the worst track record of predictions of any caster, I think.
Yep.
So, you know what? All things considered, this isn't all that surprising. But I think for anybody else, maybe, that certainly knew as little about Indonesia as we did going into this tournament, this is a bit of an upset.
Yeah, and I want to stress at home, like, this is the best period for a team like Indonesia and kind of come in here and start making their mark because, you know, this isn't coming down to everyone knowing the list and we're all just seeing who plays them better. There is a huge element of, okay, what decks did you bring? How did you build them? You know, we saw Elemental Shaman. This is a version that's slower. It is running a Lightning Storm
very
there,
much
at least
so.
one we saw. You know, it isn't running Pirates, and it's one of those situations where Leo Main kind of brought an unconventional deck too, kind of a deck from a month ago, but it works out for Indonesia, and we're heading to match 3, which is going to be Koglarine versus Rezdan, and I want to point out, Koglarine, team captain. This is the guy, he is the team captain, he is the team anchor, he got in through Hearthstone Championship Tour points. This is the guy who's going to have to turn it around.
He is their ace. If anybody's going to do it, they're putting their money on Koglarine, and I think that is wise of them. And he is opting for the Mage, and Rezdan is going to be bringing out good old Rexar.
You can go ahead and
for
sit
his
down. I got
first
this
showing.
one.
You sure you want to
No.
self-cast for the next 15 minutes or so?
Steady shot every turn, forever. Yeah, Resdan.
15 turns, you win the game.
Resdan's going to be on that Hunter, and Hunter has just undergone a renaissance that is a mixture of both getting new options from Journey to Ungoro, but also just Totem Golem going away. Totem Golem isn't wild now. He can't possibly hurt Rexar anymore.
Totem Golem rotating out, honestly, just opened up so many possibilities for deck building in this game. And you know what? We're all guilty of Totem Golem, but it does feel good to see other minions played on turn 2.
All right, so we see Kogler in there smiling, looking like a happy guy, knowing, pressure's on him, but he's not feeling it. He's a seasoned competitor. And we see Resdan, and Resdan, similar to Vertigo, doesn't have a whole lot of competitive experience. He has competed in some Open Cups, so I don't want to sell him short, but he doesn't necessarily have the incredible background that Koglerine does. Koglerine, as we see, the second highest Hearthstone Championship Tour point earner from Brazil in 2016 with 55 points earned. That's only the second in Brazil. Brazil, like I said, they go
Brazil
pretty
is
hard.
incredibly prestigious in Hearthstone.
Yep, three top 8 finishes in Copa America Majors, including 1 second-place finish, and was also the Copa America Winter 2017 champion, so that's for the season. That's not actually the grand finals, which we were talking about earlier. And Koglerine has been 1 match away from qualifying for a Hearthstone Championship Tour major event, so a championship, twice now. I've actually casted some of those series. It's just heartbreaking for Koglerine. He really wants to just finally have that big win that is going to make him, someone that from the pros just know to someone who's a mainstream name.
I mean, and again, I'm going to reiterate, close but no cigar for the Brazilian team. And then Resdan, highest HCT point earner from Indonesia with 22 points. Big differential between 22 and 55. Regularly attends fireside gatherings and wants to put his country on the map for competitive Hearthstone. They're doing a great job so far, and thinks Bali is the best place to visit in Indonesia because of its laid-back lifestyle. Sounds fantastic to me.
Yeah, I kind of wonder why we're even casting Hearthstone. We could just go live in Indonesia. Good food.
Burbank,
beautiful
California.
Place. Hey, don't you? You say nice things about Burbank.
Burbank, California.
There you
I'm
go,
here
see?
a lot, okay? Yeah. The first time I came here, I was like, oh my God, it's so warm year-round. It's like witches or something. It's a very nice place to be.
So when it's warm out, you just think it's witches?
I'm from Chicago, Rob.
That's fair. They're very superstitious people, Chicagoans, but...
I was going for more of, it's pretty cold, but...
Oh, yeah, me too. Anyway, Hunter versus Mage.
Great.
Hunter, thus far, has really only had one amazing mode. The Raptor quest hasn't really panned out thus far. I think Firebat put out one quest or one video, is it overpowered? And that was pretty much the last anyone heard of it.
The answer was no.
Yeah, it can be run, and it does have some upside, especially, once it gets going. If it gets that quest done, just Raptor draw a card. Raptor draw a card. Hunters mark a big minion. Raptor draw a card. But, the mid-range Hunter has really started to shine. We've seen lists from Show, from Orange. Bloody had a really good list that he used to get top 20 on North America, so shout out to him. Mage, over on the side of Koglerine, we've talked about just how versatile this class is.
It absolutely is, but this is already surprising me just a little bit. Kirin Tor Mage in the opener. I think we're looking at some form of a secret spin on the Mage decks that we've been seeing.
Okay, so I've seen Kirin Tor Mage probably twice since the set released, and I lost both times, dude. It was the full Seeker package. It was Cabal Lackey. It was Kirin Tor Mage. It was Arcanologist. It was Mirror Entity Counterspell, just like you expected from the old Tempo Mages.
Yeah.
But yeah, I obviously we don't know exactly what's in this, which frankly makes this very exciting for me. This is one of those deck archetypes I've always been a big fan of.
It actually makes perfect sense. Arcanologist turn 2 fits right into Kirin Tor Mage, plus a guaranteed secret on turn 3. I don't know. I'm excited to see if this works out. And then the Hunter build for Resdan, we saw the Bittertide Hydra in the opening hand. It is a very... it's a card that a lot of people are torn upon. Some people think it's really great. Some people think it's terrible. Clearly, Indonesia is favoring the card.
Yeah, I'm firmly lodged in the camp of Bittertide Hydra is awesome and everything I've ever wanted. It is a 5-mana 8/8. That's a beast. Like, look, you're going to take damage, whatever, but generally speaking, when you're the aggressor, your life total is a pretty, marginal resource you're willing to expend. Is that a
It came from the Babbling Book.
Okay, good. Okay. Sorry, I was talking to you and I was looking over at you, and I just want to make sure.
I mean, I can't blame you. My eyes got really big, but then I could see the thoughts going through your head. But no, they came from the babbling book.
Whew, we can go on and keep casting Hearthstone. Shatter was not put in a deck intentionally.
It is the opposite of Paveling book, but it does look like Brazil elected to keep their entire opening hand of double babbling book, Cold Light Oracle, Kirin Tormage. Makes sense to me. Book 1, coin Cold Light 2 if you want it, Kirin Tor 3.
That's ambitious to me these days with the way Hunter's going. Like, it's just alley cat, and you're like, oh, look, kittens, and then they die, and then suddenly scavenging hyena. Yeah, like, Hunter goes fast these days. And, you know, fair, Hunter's always been a class that is doing its best when it's going fast, but I really want to see what secrets we're running in here, because I don't know that Mirror Entity is necessarily going to cut it.
No, I mean, I have a feeling this is just a spin on the mages that we've been seeing. I'm sure we're going to see Ice Barrier, Ice Block, and then you just have Kirin Tormage as a vessel to get those spells up.
Yeah. Crackling Razor Maw here. Okay, well, let's see what we get here. Death Rattle summon 2 points just seems like the obvious choice, because realistically, you do want the Kindly Grandmother body to actually go away, so you can get the 3-2 Wolf. You're just putting more pressure on the board at this point. And yeah, this is... We see the Galoka Crawler in there, and we mentioned it at the beginning of the broadcast. Galoka Crawler, you know, usually you're going to run it in some decks to deal with pirates. The upside for Hunter is it's also a beast. So there's synergy with Houndmaster, synergy with Kill Command. I'm just giddy about the fact that there is an anti-pirate tech that also just specifically benefits Rexar.
Yeah, I mean, you can just play it in every Hunter deck, and
that can be your life.
When you're not playing against pirates, the negative drawback is at its least in a Hunter deck, because it does synergize with all of the Beast synergy cards. So this is where it shines the most. Kagloran, we see Arcanologist coming into hand, so we may find out what secrets, or at least one of the secrets, that the Brazilian team has elected to put into this build. And Primordial Glyph coming off of the second Babbling book is a lot better than Shatter. May give them a discount on a form of AoE removal that will come in very handy later on.
All right, let's see what the options were here. We see Vaporize, Mana Bind, and Greater Arcane Missiles, and none of these really stand out to me. Now, Mana Bind is a secret that I have not touched at all. I think it could be cool in tournament, basically, where you can basically isolate what you're looking to face. Vaporize just, frankly, is garbage against Hunter, and good luck surviving long enough to play Greater Arcane Missiles.
I mean, Mana Bind is a nice take. You get to play it this turn because of the Sorcerer's Apprentice on board, giving the additional 1 mana discount.
Sure.
It's all right. Great Arcane Missiles, you're going to be running up against a lot of 1/1 little tokens against the Hunter build, and it's never going to do anything for you. So, hey, maybe this way you pick up a Kill Command.
I mean, there's also just the pressure of what that secret could be. And that's oftentimes, especially for mages who have some of the most impactful spells in all of Hearthstone. That's the upside of it. And, you know, when you're looking at Mana Bind versus Vaporize, you know Vaporize is actually just bad for you.
Yeah.
It could be a universe where Mana Bind gets you something that matters. A Kill Command could be a big deal. Kind of have to see what happens here, though. All right, so this is a big board from the Hunter, and I want to point out Koglarine is running the Cold Light Oracle, which, you know, is kind of a very common tool right now for Mage to dig through the deck. But the last thing you want to do is give an aggro deck more cards. That's supposed to be their drawback. They're not supposed to have a bunch of cards.
Yeah, they start off very strong, and the Hunter has that consistent form of damage from the steady shot, but after a certain amount of turns have passed, they're living on the top of their deck, and Cold Light Oracle is possibly worse for you than it does actually benefit you by drawing the 2 cards. Medivh's Valet, however, is a welcome inclusion in these secret inclusion mage builds. 3 damage when you have a secret up, very strong.
Yeah, I hadn't really necessarily considered much in the way of the secret archetype specifically for mage, but, you know, if Koglarine's bringing it, I want to say this is something that actually inspires my confidence to potentially go try this build, because he's someone who's not going to bring something that's bad. If anything, I would think he brought it because it's not something you're expecting.
I think that's actually a great point. It's still only a week into Journey to Ungoro's release, but I think people have really started to think that they figured out what the meta is. So if you bring something that's a little bit different, you try to catch them off guard, maybe that gives you an edge.
Yeah, it is really kind of one of the major differences between this and the Hearthstone Championship Tour that, you know, if you're someone who feels like you have a better read on the meta and you feel a little bit clever, you can definitely take advantage of. And we see now Koglarine is going to get a copy of Kill Command, which, you know, can't feel great necessarily for Indonesia, but at least you know what that secret was now. And Medi's Valet is going to require a new secret to function. You don't have to worry about any of those kind of shenanigans at this very moment.
I think a free copy of Kill Command is certainly welcome for Brazil. Second Cold Light Oracle coming into hand. It's looking like they're going to have to bite the bullet and draw in these coming turns if they don't pick up something better. But for now, Kill Command going to help them deal with this board. It's looking manageable at this point.
Treacherous Kill Command.
Yes, such betrayal.
Ooh. Hey, look, it's Bitter Tide Hydra. Bitter Tide Hydra. We're playing it. We're going. Look at that. Look at that thing.
I mean, yes, you're playing it. You have 6 mana, you have a 5 mana creature and a 1 mana creature. It looks like the obvious play here. Yeah, it's a little risky against Mage with all the freeze and, you know, 1 damage hero power, but you're a hunter.
I wish Indonesia could actually see Koglarine's hand right now. Because they're playing on that Bitter Tide Hydra like, oh, this could go against us.
It could.
Okay, sure.
It probably won't. I mean, maybe we pick up a Frost Nova off of the Oracle. Maybe Indonesia just gets Firefly and Alley Cat.
You ever just fireball the Bitter Tide Hydra and then ping it, and you're just like, listen, this is what I got in my life right now. This is what I'm dealing with. I am going to kill that Bitter Tide Hydra. You will get to do 8 damage, but this is the world I'm currently living in.
Yeah, it's something to consider.
I mean, if you leave the Bitter Tide Hydra up, like if you just draw dead on the Cold Light Oracle, what's your contingency plan here?
Your contingency plan is draw freeze.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Primordial Glyph into Polymorph, right? We're dropping the Mana Worm. We're digging for Polymorph.
You don't have the mana to play it this turn, though.
Yeah, but
I mean,
still,
you go for it on the next turn. Or freezing potion.
Next turn, if the Oracle is cleared, and you have to imagine it's going to be, how do you actually deal with Bitter Tide Hydra? Is it just going to win the game?
Yeah, he's going to hero power the bat. Now you're hoping that the Oracle or the Mana Worm go into the Hydra and you clear off with the Fireball. This is very smart.
Oh my goodness.
What's better than 1 overstated 5 mana cost card, you say? How about 2?
It's Christmas in April.
Por qué no las dos? As white people say.
Oh, Cora, you know I don't speak Spanish. Oh my goodness. You have so many options here, and I actually do think there are a few different ways you can play this. I really just like jamming second Bitter Tide Hydra hero power. That is the most dominant play. I look at Koglarine's like, oh, what's going on here?
How much do we want to assert dominance here?
I
do we just want to play Houndmaster and an Eaglehorn bow? Either way you cut it, this is so much damage in hand for Indonesia.
Come on, you can do it.
They're timid. Can you blame them?
I can't blame them, but I hope they arrive at what I know to be the correct... Oh my goodness, you didn't see 1 cleared. Oh my goodness, it's Lord of the Rings 2 Hydras. It's everything you wanted.
To his credit, Koglarin doesn't look upset.
No, this is... Koglarine's seen it all, man. You're not going to necessarily like get him. Like we saw, some players earlier on being kind of frustrated. Koglarine's like, well then. 2 Bitter Tide Hydras again.
I see.
This has probably already happened to him like 6 times.
Just another average Friday.
Yeah, just another day playing Hearthstone, and you can no longer say Heroes of Warcraft. It's redacted. Oh my
God.
Goodness. Not like this.
Dude, why me? Why do I place a curse on everybody that I hype?
It's not time to evaluate your personal life. Let's just keep it focused on Hearthstone. Okay, let's look at the bright side for Brazil. You have an ice block up. That's cool, right?
I suppose.
That's something.
It's something.
You're not going to see
arcane missiles.
Okay, this could be big. Ow. 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 Okay.
Yeah, all right. That's actually pretty good.
But look, you're the hunter, man. This is why I like Bitter Tide Hydra. You don't care that you're at 15 health. Like, okay, maybe they get the fireballs, maybe it pans out, but Can he pop block this turn? He can. Can he? No, he's a few off.
5, 8, 16.
No, he should be able to do it.
17, 18. Yeah, you can pop
Yeah,
at 1
pop with
with
the block, kill
bow,
command.
kill command, hero
Yep.
power.
Yeah, I think you're going for it. I mean, you just watch your opponent drop greater arcane missiles, which I think tells you a fair bit about what your opponent's going through.
And like the thing is, if your opponent has double fireball in hand,
Good luck. You know,
yeah,
hey,
you lose, but
you know, you got more games to come. This is like you can just ice out the series right here. So
Yeah.
I like this.
Take
Set him
that
to 1.
chance.
Yep. You know, either Kogoron's going to end the game here, or he's going to play second ice block. So either way, I think that is just always the best call.
Frost Nova off the top, that's
Nope.
not going to do it now. Would have been great several turns ago.
So you could Cold Light Oracle into ice block, buys you another turn, potentially buys you the burn to close out this game. But yeah, you have to Cold Light Oracle.
Oh,
Okay.
he gets it.
So you get the ice block. I'd like to see does he want to play the Mana Orb here?
It's possible he wants to play the Blood Mage Thalnos and go for... Well, no, if you just ping the Bittertide Hydra, you're doing 3 damage to face. Actually, this
This is game.
I think they just got this all locked up.
Yep.
Blood Mage Thalnos, Fireball, Hero Power. Yeah, that's going to be...
Okay, so you remember when I was saying Bittertide Hydra maybe doesn't have any drawbacks? Little premature on that call.
I recall that time.
I don't. Short memory.
I mean,
Like
sure. Why
Like Kobe
not?
Bryant, just a short memory after each loss. I try not to think about it. But yeah, this is actually going to spell the end for Resdan at least, and it'll be up to the rest of the Indonesian squad, specifically Joth, to get it done.
We're going to a game 4. Finally.
Man, this is one of those things when you watch the VOD of this, you're like, well, I wasn't really playing around greater arcane missiles.
Well, I didn't play around Cold Light Oracle top deck Ice Block.
But
That's okay.
that's at least something you expect,
Yeah.
right? Like, you figure that's going to happen. Okay, well, Resdan going out and just playing his hand, but we know better. Kulgareen is going to turn this around, so hats off to him. That was certainly a tall order. That was 2 Bittertide Hydras on the board.
It was a poor draw for Kaglorn. It was some really bad Primordial Glyphs, but stayed positive throughout that, and he got the job done.
Yeah, he's laughing the whole time. You can tell his team is saying
They're like, we got one, guys.
encouraging stuff. It's like, it's just Bittertide Hydras.
It's just a 5 mana 8/8.
Yeah.
Ping it, deal 3 damage to face.
Oh, I think what I would do is I would ping the Bittertide Hydra and then fireball the Bittertide Hydra.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that. You remove the Bittertide Hydra, and you kill them. Well, that's going to be one game over to Brazil.
Yeah, so it's not going to be a night full of sweeps. I really like what Kogalarian did there. He actually kind of slow-rolled the fireball. And I think in general, this is one of those things where because Indonesia is maybe a little bit less experienced, you feel like the subtle taunts, the really subtle BM potentially, is kind of the way to get to them.
You have to play for so many more weeks in this league.
Sure.
Is it really the time? I don't
It's
know.
always the time.
I don't know. Different,
right.
different folks, different strokes. But regardless,
Yeah.
Brazil gets their first win on the board. Really, really pivotal for them. Now they still have to get 2 more, but it's a foot in the door of attempting to reverse this match.
Yeah, and realistically, that's what you want. You got to put the stop somewhere. You got to turn it around. And I said, Kogalarian is the guy who, he's coming in here. Statistically, he is the best performer. So glad to see him get that win. He can, be a boost of confidence for his team in their future matches in this series. Let's go on to match number 4, however. We see here it is going to be Legolas taking on Joth. Now, back probably a week ago, we were all talking on Twitter about how we were trying to pick which team we thought was going to win it all. Legolas hits me up on Twitter. He says, easiest money I would ever make would be betting on Brazil. This is a man who is confident.
I listened.
Yeah.
I listened to him, and he can't let me down now. And unfortunately, Warrior versus Rogue, if it's a Quest Rogue and a Quest Warrior, is a tough matchup. It is really hard. The Rogue needs to draw poorly, and the Warrior needs to draw really well. It's possible, but Legolas has quite a road to win this game.
Yeah, I think Taunt Warrior is certainly one of the decks better equipped to deal with the Quest Rogue if the Quest Rogue really quickly gets to its win condition. But yeah, to your point, depending on how quickly it happens, it's an uphill battle.
I mean, if it's a Pirate Warrior, this matchup just completely flips on its head.
Yeah.
Pirate Warrior is going to be one of the best matchups against Quest Rogue. but it's definitely not the most popular warrior build right now, I feel.
I mean, it's also possible that this is actually more of a miracle variant of Rogue, and the play style of that is very different. So we'll have to see exactly how it goes. Surprised we haven't seen any Quest Rogue tonight. That certainly seems to be the flavor, at least on ranked play. You know, it's one of those things where I'm seeing like maybe every 5 games, 1 or 2 of them are Quest Rogue. Because realistically, the win condition is so straightforward.
It really is. And unfortunately, it's a very high roll deck. It's very hit or miss, depending on how you draw early on. But if you get a good start, game's over by like turn 7.
Yeah, you absolutely got to know what you're doing when you play that Quest Rogue. Got to know your mulligans. Those are all very important details. But let's take a look at a little bit more information about these players. So Legolas won the Copa America Season 1 Major in 2016 and finished in the top 8 at the Copa America Grand Finals in 2016. He plays for the Brazilian he plays Hearthstone for the Brazilian esports organization Pain Gaming, along with Koglarine. And Legolas is known for playing well against Garrosh, Thrall, Rexxar, and Gul'dan because they are orcs.
Makes sense.
TJ facts are the best facts.
TJ facts are great, and we've got some more TJ facts for the side of League of Game Joth. He's played professionally in chess, StarCraft 2, and Warcraft 3, and is looking to do the same for Hearthstone. Top 12 at the 2016 APAC Summer SEA Prelim, and earned 11 total HCT points. And he has so many accomplishments in other esports that TJ could not even begin to try to fit them on this fact sheet. We have limited amount of space, and Joth has a vast amount of experience in other esports.
Yeah, just an absolute esports god, a legend. We are all mortals compared to Joth, and we will never, ever be good enough to sit in the same room as Joth. Though, I have to think that if Indonesia wants someone to close out the series, it's pretty fair.
Probably Joth.
Yeah. So we'll see how this goes again. It's going to be Rogue versus Warrior. You know, I want to point out, someone who's, got this mastery over multiple different esports titles, I mean, it really just shows you that there's that competitive mindset. There's a difference between liking a game and saying, like, oh, I play it a lot. Maybe I get a high legend finish. Maybe I'm going to try competing.
Yeah.
Versus a guy, who goes into a game and he's like, well, I'm here to compete. I'm going to find out the immediate way to win this game. And this is the thing. Like, he's still looking to get that breakout performance for Hearthstone. He's had it for Warcraft 3. He's had it for StarCraft 2. He's had it for chess. Will Hearthstone be next on his list? This is a great chance to prove himself.
Just speaks so much to his mindset. I believe that if you come into a new game and you immediately want to be the best, and you have the drive and the determination to execute that goal, power to you, and keep doing it for as long as you possibly can. And Joth actually said he doesn't believe there is an age limit on being in esports. It is a very inclusive industry, he feels, and he is excited to be able to try and break out in Hearthstone as well.
I would certainly agree that in Hearthstone, there is no age limit. Brian Kibler continues, even at the age of like 55, 56, to enjoy Hearthstone despite advanced age. But
StarCraft may be a different...
I was going to say, I'm certainly worse at Heroes of the Storm now than I ever was at any other MOBA when I was like 21. Back then, I was just like 13 hours a day just chugging soda, eating pizza. I was a machine. So I don't know that I necessarily fully agree with Joth there, but I think for Hearthstone specifically, he's correct. And we see here, Legolas is going to be on that Quest Warrior, and Joth is going to be on the Miracle Rogue.
Yeah, this is most likely going to be very similar to the list that Eloise hit rank 1 on the Asia Pacific server with. It has a lot of the traditional Miracle Rogue style to it. Edwin Van Cleef, Questing Adventurer. The addition of Hallucination and the Razor Petals, the 1-mana deal 1 damage combo pieces, really give this deck some great strength. I'm seeing Shiv in the opening hand as well. That's interesting to me. I don't think that is an absolute inclusion in this deck.
I think, and when I think Rogue and I'm like, where do I get my list? I usually just go to Casey, obviously a German player of some renown, especially when it comes to Rogue. I went to see his list, and I believe his list does run Shiv. But yeah, Shiv is kind of one of those spells that runs in and out of the meta.
It's a flex spot.
Depending, on pretty much who's dictating what list you're supposed to be playing.
I will crush you.
Oh, Legolas, please.
He is wanting to make his intentions known.
Yeah, Joth just replies with a very calm thank you and says, okay, well, that's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be.
I respect that.
Well, he's also in charge now, so.
I respect that less, but you know what? I understand it.
Okay, so the immediate call I want to ask you about. Do you just straight up on this, next turn, potentially, or turn 3, go for a huge questing adventure? Obviously Conceal, Hall of Fame now. Yep. Conceal is no longer a factor, so you're not waiting for that big Conceal turn with the questing adventure. With a hand like what you have, do you just maybe consider kind of going all in on that pretty soon?
I think against a warrior,
You don't
it's
win
not
this
a
long
bad
term.
bet.
Yeah.
No, you don't win this long term. Certainly, that's not the rogue's best chance. And the only way, really, that Legolas is going to clear the questing adventurer is execute shield block, shield slam. I think
yeah.
it's relatively safe to just go for it if Joth decides that's his best bet. But look at this hand. He has so many combo pieces for the questing adventurer if he wants it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem here is that, okay, he has to play the coin first to even get the questing adventurer just out of the hand. And then from there, he can prep out the hallucination, he can backstab, but, you know, he can't just go all in with the Ironforge portal, but maybe that's enough.
Well, I think you probably hold off. Certainly they're considering it for this turn, but I don't know that it's necessary right now.
One point I want to make is if you don't go for it now, the Armorsmith is going to hit one of the minions, and then backstab on it is no longer an option.
You just backstab it right now.
But you're losing out on the questing buff. Do you think that's a big deal?
You're gaining the coin on next turn, which
Sure.
it would be the same thing as the backstab buff on the questing, so I think this is totally fine.
Okay.
And Indonesia doesn't want to give away what they have in their hand. Exactly. If they were to go full in on questing this turn, Brazil knows, okay, you've got like 2 cards in your hand right now, and 1 card from my class from Hallucination. Now I know exactly what I need to do to beat you. So I think there's nothing wrong with just waiting a little bit longer, biding your time.
Yeah, this is what makes Rogue such a fun class, and when you talk to the Rogue aficionados of the Hearthstone Pro community, they'll tell you it's making these split decisions, and I will be the first to say, like, I got to Golden Rogue with like a 25% win rate. It was just, I was crawling through just a bed of nails to get there, but I finally did, and Rogue is one of those super fun classes because every game is different.
Every game is certainly different. I will be the first to admit that Rogue is not my favorite class. Miracle Rogue in particular has been around for so long now that I feel like I've just seen it so many times. And it gets a little bit old for me. I did hit Legend with a Jade Rogue build last month.
Yep.
Very different than what we're seeing here right now.
It's a fun deck list.
It's a fun deck list. It's a good list. I don't think it's the best for competitive play right now. Miracle and Quest Rogue are certainly better, but let's just say I prefer the Quest Warrior in this matchup.
Yeah, and I do say, I want to at least make the point that, yes, while there are some key Miracle components to this, and that playstyle feels similar, there are some new things in here to where, you know, I want to point out, it's still, especially if you haven't played the deck recently, it is still a fairly new experience with the Razor, Petal Lashers, the one-mana spells, the hallucination, so I've been enjoying it personally, but I also totally see where you're coming from.
It is definitely a different experience than pre-Ungoro Miracle Rogue.
I think you kind of hate to see the damage go there. But yeah, this is an interesting situation now. Well, it's suddenly less interesting because Legolas, I'm pretty sure you just slam execute. In every universe.
I mean, that's the perfect use of mana. It's the perfect 2-card combination. Yeah, Shield Block, Shield Slam would have been good too, but I'm not getting picky. Slam Execute is everything that you could possibly want here. And it is really going to hurt Indonesia. Yes, Cold Blood on your patches into Acolyte of Pain sucked, but patches Cold Blood wasn't going to be your win condition here. A giant questing adventurer that your opponent can't deal with, that's going to win you the game potentially. You want to protect that. Acolyte of Pain, that was an Execute activator. You needed to get it off the board. Unbeknownst to Joth, slams in hand for Legolas.
Yeah, and now you're suddenly thinking, okay, well, I have the Slam Execute if I really want it gone, but Legolas probably, considering the upside of playing that Bloodhoof Brave, just decides, hey, look, this is the problem. I'm just going to get rid of it now. I don't want it to get bigger and potentially spiral out of control. And now Indonesia is just kind of in a weird spot where, you know, double prep, hallucination, Ironforge Portal, and now Razor, Petal Lasher.
This would be a fantastic hand if Indonesia and Joth are able to pick up Gadgets and Auctioneer.
Yep.
Or Edwin Van Cleef, but right now...
Or Edwin Van Leaf.
Edwin Van Leaf as well.
Yep.
He is fantastic. But right now it's a little sparse. There's not much that they really want to bite the bullet on because it makes Gadgets and Auctioneer weaker if they are to draw it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I actually don't mind just going for the hallucination. Maybe you get something off of it that allows you to actually like start doing something.
I mean, maybe you get Shield Block, you draw into
Yeah.
better cards. Yeah, Grimy Gadgeteer is not bad.
Yeah. I mean, it will buff the Razor Petal Ashra. I mean, I think that's just a clear choice. You just need a minion on the board.
Yeah, can't play it until next turn, but...
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But, you know, you did get a minion at least. Cursed mana.
4/3 body. It's the best that was represented of those 3 choices. Unfortunately, a lot of warrior class cards are very weak.
Yeah, you're usually really just kind of gunning for the removal options for them. And since you don't really need removal options here, warrior not exactly the best class to be taking cards from.
Sometimes you get high-value minions. Sometimes you get Inner Rage. Can't get Bolster anymore, though. That's important to note.
Oh, thank you, Set Rotation. You've done us all a service.
You've taken away Bolster right when Taunt Warrior becomes viable.
Always, as you see Bolster, press F to pay respects to Bolster. Grand Tournament card who, you know, never really got to his prime.
Rip Bolster. Feels bad Bolster.
I think, I feel like I'm just mentoring Brian a lot, but Brian did actually make a Taunt Warrior deck at one point back in the day that I believe used Bolster, but that was probably the most action it ever saw.
I mean, if anybody did it, I'm betting it's Brian.
Or Savitz or Tice or one of those guys.
Amaz.
Yeah.
Probably somebody we watched on Twitch.
Definitely. All right, so Ironforge Portal here. I mean, it costs 5 mana. Maybe you get like a reasonable minion for 4. Maybe you get a 4 mana 7/7. You don't. You actually get something that's just literally worse. Legolas, the BM.
The Grove. Why?
Yeah. Okay, as you see, it's pretty playful back and forth. Legolas is laughing. Even Joth is looking kind of excited.
You know what? I love this. Well-natured fights between friends from different countries.
I mean, I don't know if these guys are friends. That's just it. You know, I
They're
talk
friends now.
We're all friends in the tavern. Aha.
Haha.
Nexuck 40, you know, said that a lot of the Indonesian guys know the Brazilian guys because they play on the same servers and they talk back and forth. So, I mean, it's possible these two actually know each other.
Maybe they know each other. Maybe they hate each other because
they
played each other at High Legend. I don't know, Rob.
Well, Joth continues just being a bad situation.
Yeah. At the mercy of his draws, as Admirable would say, and often does.
Yeah, that's right. You spend a lot of time with Admirable. I feel like you probably know all the Admirable.
This is the first time that I've actually casted with someone other than Admirable in like 8 weeks.
No, you casted with Lothar for the championship.
That's true. I did cast with Lothar. Yep. I wasn't around him enough to learn the Lotharisms.
Yeah. Yeah. In case you don't necessarily tune in, and you should, Cora is one of the flagship casters for the Collegiate Hearthstone series. So.
Oh, stop. I'm blushing and they can't even see.
We do have the championship coming up pretty soon here, so we will both be involved in that. But, yeah, in the meantime, Joe's just basically trying to turn nothing into something.
Stolen goods isn't going to do it. That's actually standard bolster right now, and I'm ashamed that I forgot it existed. But, yeah, it's just as bad.
And then you see it not activate. Oh, my goodness. Legolas is having an absolute field day.
So bad. I mean, he is in full control of this matchup right now. It's honestly just going through the motions until the rogue draws gadgets in Auctioneer, at which point maybe they can fight their way back into the game. I mean, but even that's not a guarantee.
This is something worth noting now. The way the quest works for the warrior, look, playing minions is just always strictly like a reasonable thing.
It advances you towards a goal.
Right, whereas, the nature of rogue, at least at this point in the game, is just basically you're always drawing spells. And, if you watch the plight of the priest class, spells are sometimes not always, necessarily going to do much for you. They're not developing you on the board. They're usually pretty reactive. What makes spells so good in Rogue is the fact that you can chain them up together really quickly to do things, like buff up a questing adventure or make a giant Edwin Van Cleef. Usually what makes it good. We do see Mimic Pod into the hand now, so if this is a Gadgets and Auctioneer off the Mimic Pod, this could be big. Okay.
Corpse Flower. Okay, that is another big inclusion from Journey to Ungoro. 4-mana 5/3 Death Rattle, go dormant. Play 4 cards in a turn to revive this minion. So essentially, once you play it on board, it is always going to be there. It lives through brawls in its dormant state. And if on any turn you play 4 cards, it comes back as that 5/3 minion. It is a huge nuisance for Taunt Warrior to deal with.
Yeah, and the card art, that was actually the same face I made when 2 Bittertide Hydras were on the board. I was that excited.
Can confirm it was nearly identical. A little bit less orange and leafy, but pretty close.
My stalks, were just flailing around. I was very excited. I had the flower eyes, but yeah, maybe a little bit too little too late, but I think the start of how you get back in this game is jamming both Sherazine Corpse Flowers.
I mean, talk about legendaries that influencers wrote off prior to Ungoro. This card looked bad, and it turns out it's not that bad.
Back in the day, people wrote off Dr. Boom, too. They were
That's
like,
true. We did that.
the way of the future. We're going.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Hey, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, it's not a complete science predicting like over 100 cards in the meta.
Yeah.
Happy to say a lot of times the guys and girls get them right, but yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay, Sherazine Corpse Flower now goes dormant, goes into its little
pod state.
comfy plant hut.
Comfy plant hut.
Yeah.
Just as you called your arms stalks. Okay.
There's a trend.
I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so more than enough cards in hand to reactivate the Corpse Flowers.
You can play Stolen Goods even when you don't have a taunt minion in hand.
That is the value. With its dying breath, it's like, look, I can do something for you.
I can revive your Sherazins.
I'm trying, man.
It's the best you're going to get.
This is fun. I've yet to see 2 Sherazins on the board at the same time. I love this. This was something that was previewed before the set came out. Sherazim has the little leaves that are obviously lighting up as the cards are played, so very exciting. Okay, and this is really telling of this game state so far to where realistically this is still not actually a problem for Legolas.
No.
Being honest, Legolas is in such a good spot. He's progressed so much towards his win condition. Again, Indonesia had to exhaust resources to bring those flowers back, and unfortunately, Sherazine Corpse Flower is not statted in a way that's advantageous to this particular situation.
No, if Sherazin were to have come down earlier in the matchup, it can be very difficult for the warrior to have to repeatedly kill. But having come down so late, now Joth has no resources in hand. It's just not nearly as difficult to overcome, especially since now Legolas has access to Sulfuras, and that is what he was anticipating by playing the Alley Armorsmith this turn instead of the Curator, which he initially hovered over.
Yeah, it's it was always looking grim though in this game, at least for Joe. So we see
you can just kill him.
Yeah, I was gonna say we just take the 33% chance, and all right, we have an ace match on our hands between Brazil and Indonesia. Brazil has climbed back into this after the heroics of Koglarine surviving the brutal double Bittertide Hydra onslaught, and Legolas, realistically, this is what the kids I would say would call freelo. I mean, that was just pretty easy. It was just like
is that what the kids say, Rob?
I hang out with.
Are you hip with the young ones?
I hang out with the Heroes of the Stormcasters a lot. And,
yeah.
I have a guy Dredd who's teaching me a lot of the nuances of being young these days.
The youngisms.
Yeah, but that is going to be a tied-up series. Very excited to go to our first ace match, at least in this studio. The European guys had 10 matches. They were bound to have some ace matches, but
greedy.
Yeah, we got some over here. All right, so ace match. Let's go ahead and take a look at the classes for this.
All right, so Koglorin coming back online and Nexok 40. It's going to be the Rogue for Koglorin and the Warlock for Nexok. We actually haven't seen a Warlock up until this point, so this is going to be exciting. There is a Handlock variant that is around, as well as just a Discard Zoo variant. And then obviously for Rogue, Quest Rogue, I would say, is the most hotly anticipated deck that we would assume we would see, but we just saw Miracle Rogue for Joth.
Yeah, Quest Rogue is certainly the new hotness these days. Like, the kids are all just enjoying bouncing minions.
Is that another youngism, new hotness?
I'm really going for it. I can't see Twitch chat, but I can feel it.
I'm rolling on it.
They're loving this. Yeah, it's certainly the new hotness right now, but it remains to be seen over time if that's going to be the deck that kind of comes out as dominant, or if it's going to be the Miracle Rogue variant. But we once again see Koglarine and Nexok 40. How fitting. The two captains, the two anchors, they want the ball. Let's go.
And I think this is really just a very smart decision on part of both of these teams to pick what they consider to be their strongest players to play twice. It just makes sense. If you need somebody to come in at the last second and try to get that final win for you, you want it to be the person who's going to play the cleanest. And in this case, they're thinking it's Kagloran taking on Nexoc 40.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to make a caster global team of you, myself, Soddle, and Raven, I'm going to want you to play the ace match every time because I 100% know you're the best player there. I'm not exaggerating. Soddle's going to hit me later.
Wait, what? Wait.
Wear the mantle well. But yeah, Rogue versus Warlock. No, it's just a compliment.
I'm just so not used to that from you.
Fair enough.
Oh, God.
Rogue versus Warlock. Head in the game.
Thank you. I'm back. I'm here. I'm present. I'm
Ace
young.
match. And we're in the game.
This.
Okay, we are in fact going to see the caverns below. Okay, so when you are looking to win with this deck, Cora, what are you looking for in the mulligan?
In the mulligan, you're looking for pretty much exactly this. This is quite good. So play 4 minions with the same name, reward Crystal Core. Essentially, if you play a Stone Tusk Boar, if you Shadow Step it, then play it again. If you Gadgets and Ferryman it, then play it again. Youthful Brewmaster, play it again. You get the Crystal Core, 5 mana spell, all of your minions are 5/5. So in this case, Boar goes back, Swashbuckler is better for the bounce back effect because it has a battle cry. But eventually, if you've played Crystal Core, that Boar comes out as a 1 mana 5/5 charge. That is the point at which it is so difficult for the Rogue to lose the game if they've accomplished that early on.
Yeah, that's a pretty good synopsis. From what you described, and realistically anyone who has played this against this deck knows, this deck, similar to old Miracle Rogue, is basically playing a game by itself while it tries to ignore you. It's just pulled up Solitaire in a little window, and it's trying to win the game and ignore you. And that's why aggro decks are realistically, at least right now, the only deck's type, I guess, that necessarily has a leg up. Because it basically says, no, you can't ignore me, I'm hitting you in the face. So again, aggro decks,
right.
as I've said before, aggro decks are...
aggro decks are always very strong.
I don't feel like people appreciate what we do enough. We keep the ladder clean.
Aggro decks are very strong, but we're not seeing too much representation. Agoro has certainly slowed down the meta quite a bit, with the exception of Quest Rogue, which actually can, after you've played 4 minions with the same name, use preparation to prep out the Crystal Core, and at that point, it's doing things it shouldn't be able to do, and then it hits you in the face for 5 a lot.
Yeah. Okay, well, we see the decision by Kogler to just go ahead and bring the dagger online and trade out that Flame Imp. That Flame Imp was representing too much damage over time. Ooh. This is a pretty unfortunate situation here. That Ravasaur Runt, if there's 2 other minions on the board, it does get an adaptation, but as we can see, there isn't, and I feel like you don't necessarily want a Soulfire here. What do you... Like, yeah, you have Malkazar's Imp on the board, but are you just Soulfiring face?
I think, honestly, you might just have to Ravasaur Runt and go for the Pterodax on the following turn. This is a really bad hand for the discard Zoo Warlock. So Zoo does not use their quest, but did get the inclusion of the Lucari Fellhound, the Ravenous Pterodax, and then, of course, the Ravasaur Runt. So it does have really fantastic discard synergy now.
Yeah.
But this hand is just so stinking slow. You don't want 2 Soulfires in your hand.
On the plus side, I don't necessarily want to undersell the situation. Brazil doesn't necessarily have anything amazing going on either. They basically can bring the Swashbuckler back to play it a 3rd time. So they still need 1 more effect. Cho'Gall is, for all intents and purposes, a dead draw here. Not only does the actual ability of the minion not do anything for you, realistically, its stats actually go lower.
Yeah, you're never getting to turn 7 and wanting to play Cho'Gall. It's might as well just not be there at this point. So the Swashbuckler can come down for the 3rd time. Kagloran needs to find 1 more bounce back effect, either Shadow Step, Ferryman, or Youthful Brewmaster, so that he can play the Swashbuckler the 4th time. When that happens, you do complete the quest and get the Crystal Core.
Yeah, it's going to be really on the Zoo player now to just go ahead and, go wide on the board, get minions that have a sizable amount of HP, and just start pushing the agenda. I actually really just like Soulfire here. If you drop the Pterodax, you drop it, but it looks like he does not, though. We saw the Soulfire no longer lit up, so
ooh,
that would have been...
That kind of sucks.
Would have been great sooner. Yeah, Silver Warrior Golem, just high-rolling that off of the I mean, I say high rolling, but when I say that, I'm saying actually you can usually pretty strategically leverage it into being discarded. So accomplishing that would have put Indonesia in a way better position here.
It's a calculated risk.
Yep.
And actually, if you're looking at this matchup, obviously the weakness of the Quest Rogue is either a terrible draw of their own in the mulligan, or an aggressive deck. Zoo, it's slowed down a little bit with the addition of Lakari Fellhound, but it's still a rather aggressive tempo-based deck. It's like the tempo deck that's as old as time.
Yep.
And in theory, it should perform relatively well against this Rogue deck. The start, unfortunately, for Indonesia was just a lot slower than they wanted it to be. This is sick.
Yeah, so Vanish is an inclusion that it's honestly just nuts to me.
That's hilarious.
Have you never seen this before?
I've seen Vanish in the lists. I've never seen it
No, you
prepped on
would
turn
use it
4.
to use it to bounce it
It's
out
awesome.
there. Yeah.
And it also shuts down the aggression from the Zoo build. Okay, that's sweet.
Quite possibly the only comfort you take from this as an XOC 40 is that's one less prep that can potentially be used for the Crystal Core. So you basically are like, okay, I have a little bit more time in my head because prep is probably, the second copy of it is probably not in the hand. But it is absolutely a race against time now because you know with all certainty that quest is about to be completed.
Yeah, it is a brief comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. And actually looking at Indonesia's hand right now, it's pretty spicy. Doomguard will come down likely on the next turn, discard Silverware Golem, which comes on board as well. And it's looking like Brazil will have to wait an additional turn to be able to play Crystal Core. If that takes up their entire turn, maybe Indonesia has enough aggression on board to close out this game before Crystal Core even matters for the Rogue.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the only silver lining you read as XOC 40. And I actually like this. Just go for the plants. Just basically try to have as much on the board as possible so that if he spends his turn looking to, just deal with the board, you're making it as resilient as possible.
It's looking like they're thinking about feeding time this turn and then Swashbuckler and immediately Crystal Core next turn. I think this is really smart. You are risking taking way too much damage if you leave that Knife Juggler on board.
Okay, so could look at the Pterodax and then just going for Defender of Argus. But you pretty much realize you have to deal with those 1/1s.
Yeah, those are 5/5s
Which is,
if you leave them on the board.
Which is essentially where the beginning of the end is. Because you're no longer hitting face, which is the only way you're going to win this to begin with. But you're not going to realistically probably trade enough to where you can somehow eke out a win.
So 2 of these 1/1s going down easily. Do you Doomguard into another one? Honestly, yeah, you might have to.
I don't hate the idea. Voidwalker, hey, look, that's a 1/3. I'll take it.
Now I'm probably going face.
Okay. I mean, you have to figure out how much damage you have. You have, with what's on the board, you had 8, 11, 12.
It would have been 17. Yeah. You've ditched both Soulfires. That would have made Argus or Direwolf an out.
It's such a tough call. There we see the Caverns Below is completed. So that is going to bring the Crystal Core into Kug'Larine's hand.
The preparation actually is
pretty big.
Pretty important here because it allows Kug'Larine to be able to do something else this turn as well.
Ooh, Glacial Shard. So that is a recent addition. This was not necessarily in the original lists for this, but Glacial Shard is just, to be honest, brutal. It is a 1-mana 2/1 that obviously is going to become a 5/5 with the Crystal Core activated, and Battlecry frees an enemy. So if you're just thinking, all right, I'm dying to aggro, that's the only thing I'm losing to. How do I beat it? That's how you beat it.
Nice to meet you.
You were just sitting there the whole time, like smiling, like, I just want to say this thing. But, yeah. XOC 40, though, and Indonesia are just suddenly... I'm going to be honest, I don't know how you win from this point. If the Doomguard wasn't frozen, you could at least take one of the 5/5s off the board and just kind of go from there. You could trade in the Silverware Golem and the Ravasaur Runt. You leave up the Voidwalker to soak something up. You could potentially use the Pterodax, stealth it, try to do something, but... I think you got to go Pterodax here, and then I think you also have to go Ravasaur Runt and just try to stealth them.
If you'd hit face last turn, there'd be an extra 5/5 on the board for them, but they would be down to 14. You'd have 2, 3, 6, 7. It's just tough.
Are you gonna need
Taunt? Yeah, there's Taunt.
Okay.
That's a start. Ravenous Pterodax, destroy a friendly minion, adapt twice.
Oh, this is Okay, so
Sure.
automatically selected Volcanic Might. At least you got something out of it. Okay, so from this point on, every minion played is a 5/5.
Played or generated. All minions,
Yep.
period, are 5/5.
Yeah, now we start getting to the point where, you know, somebody's South Sea Deckhand, Stone Tusk Boar can come out, value trade, be bounced back by a Youthful Brewmaster, a Gadget's In Ferryman, Shadow Step. So this deck just, I mean, it really just fires on all cylinders and grinds you out if it doesn't just automatically kill you with 5/5s.
Very smart on the part of Indonesia to kill the Glacial Shard. If that were to be bounced back and played again,
Yeah.
Doomsayer would be permafrozen. So it was very wise of them to take that out.
Just let Doomsayer attack.
I just don't know that they have the power to race, especially with both Soulfires being gone.
No, I definitely don't think the race is something you can win. It's
But you can't win the trade game either.
yeah. So basically, the long and the short of this is now you cannot win. Yeah, and before we necessarily go to the point where like, all right, well, Crystal Core Rogue just kind of did its own thing and won, you could certainly go back as Indonesia and look at some of the places where you didn't
Yeah.
necessarily go face. I think there was definitely some missed damage opportunities, but I certainly think when you had the 3/1/1 Pterodactyl tokens on the board, I think you had to deal with at least two of them.
The way that the draws panned out, I don't think it would have made a difference.
Sure.
But had they gone face for 5, put their opponents down to 14, there was the potential that like a Doomguard and a Direwolf Alpha could have finished the game. Evidently, they have neither of those cards, so I think it's a moot point. But
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. It's
I think
really
I
very
did-
unfortunate for Indonesia.
I think I did see a Direwolf Alpha in the deck.
Yeah,
But
I'm
that
sure
was-
there's one there.
Yeah. It's a staple of Zoo, to be sure. But yeah, Indonesia is just kind of trying to figure out, like, you know, is there anything we can do? And Koglarine just
Ooh.
throwing it out there. And yeah, Indonesia is not super amused by that one.
No, I can't imagine they would be. You know what? To their credit, they're going to play this one out. Now they are attempting to set up lethal with another Doomguard draw if Koglarine does not clear the board, but I think that's just going to be it. 10 more damage coming from hand. Hero power, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30.
Yeah. Once Zoo's off the board, Zoo's not coming back. There's no implosions these days. You know, you're not running anything that allows you to get back on the board, so.
All right, so 1/5 into 6 health, hero power. Well, you actually can't afford to hero power. You're at 10. You don't want to die to a top deck Doomguard. 5, 10, 15, 16. Huh.
I mean, if there is upside, Brazil's hand is pretty much at the moment just nothing impressive at all.
No, it's
It's
quite bad. It's all generated cards off of Swashbuckler. Oh, do you play the Apothecary?
I mean,
You do if you think that this board is going to get the
Yeah.
job done, but if you even remotely think you have to play another minion,
okay, what goes ahead and errs on the side of safety. We see Koglarine think you get over, but
I don't think it's going to matter, but
yeah.
yep, that's going to be match point over to Brazil. Coming back from the very edge, a reverse sweep in their first match of this tournament.
Yeah. We see Indonesia finally giving that little bit of a smile, like, okay, well, you know, we lost. We played a really good series. They brought, you know, Brazil to the brink. So that's something certainly to be proud of for Indonesia.
Yeah, absolutely. They put on a very good show with those first 2 games, and I'm betting Brazil was getting scared. I certainly was,
Yeah.
wearing my Brazil pin. And, you know, obviously we're a little bit biased here, but Indonesia, I actually think that I was subconsciously rooting for, just because they came in here so, you know, good-natured and had so much to prove. Certainly this isn't the end of their run. This is
Yep.
only the first week in the Hearthstone Global Games, but a strong start out of the gate for them, I think, would have meant a lot more than it would have for Brazil. But ultimately it went to Brazil, and they are looking very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Indonesia, you walk away from this. I mean, yeah, look, the reality is you're up 2-0, get reverse swept.
It happens.
That sucks in every conceivable universe ever. But like maybe a day later from this, you're going back, you're watching the VODs, and you're with your friends, and you're like, look, we actually made this really competitive, and we were definitely the team that was unfavored coming into this against Brazil. So I think there's a lot to learn from this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the score for this. Why don't you go ahead and walk us through what happened there, Cora?
All right, so first two games were quick for Vertigo and Nexoc 40. Unfortunately, that's the only two that Indonesia put on the board. And from there, Kagloran and Legolas were able to carry Leomain and Loxodontes on their backs to victory in this first match of the Hearthstone Global Games for them. 3-2 victory, ultimately, over Indonesia.
Yeah, so congratulations to Brazil. Let's go ahead and take a look now at Group A standings. We see Brazil and Sweden at the top, China and Indonesia at the bottom with work to do in the coming weeks. But as you said, there's a lot of Hearthstone left to play, so still ample time to fix that score, get out of the group, and move on to stage 2.
And game score very well may matter going forward if we have tiebreakers in this tournament, and 3-2 victories and 2-3 losses are a lot better for the losing team than a 0-3.
Yeah, I definitely think that's very important to note. And, even when we're looking kind of at these matches and fans at home, you can definitely see, like, look, these were close. The 3-0s, like, those are going to happen too. I would be lying if I said I expected Australia to get 3-0'd by Argentina.
Yeah.
But, yeah, having the 3-2, 2-3 score still, feels pretty good.
Yeah, it sucks, but it's respectable. So
Yeah.
certainly Indonesia not out of it yet. This is only the first week of Hearthstone Global Games, as we keep reiterating, and there is just so much more play that we're going to be seeing from them.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at tonight's schedule here, how we got to this point. We saw Argentina at 3-0 Australia, as we mentioned. Certainly a lot from the guys down under to go home and think about, figure out how they right the ship there. And then Brazil managed to eke out a close win after a very dramatic series with Indonesia. Congratulations, Indonesia. Welcome to the big time. That was a great coming out to show the world what you're about.
I think they have made quite a statement coming into this tournament, and I'm excited to see if they can pick themselves back up and really prove that Indonesia needs to be on the map for Hearthstone. But Brazil ultimately was able to eke that one out and did a fantastic job.
All right, let's take a look at the Group C standings now at the end of the night. This is the end of Week 1 now. We are officially done. Argentina and Russia at the top. I'm not really surprised by either of those scores. Like I said, Argentina, respectable team in its own right. A lot of high-level players. Russia, an absolute powerhouse. We will get our first look at Australia and New Zealand next week.
Yep, and then Spain sitting at the bottom as well, but they have plenty of time to come back in. And of course, Brazil just took a 3-2 victory over Indonesia. Indonesia sitting at the bottom with China, have some work to do, but Sweden and Brazil picked up wins in this first week of competition.
Yeah, really excited to see Bulgaria and Switzerland for the first time, see what those teams bring. I think for a lot of people, those teams are probably a little bit unknown, so we'll have to see what exactly they are able to bring to the global games. But yeah, this has been a very exciting Week 1. For all of us. Obviously, we only casted 2 matches, but I had a great time, Cora, and I'm looking forward to hanging out more with you as we continue to see what is not just a tournament, but realistically to me, a celebration of the greater Hearthstone community, all the various cultures and diversity that makes up the Hearthstone community. Want to give a shout out as well. Tune in on Tuesday, for us over in California. It's a little bit late at night. We can always watch the broadcast, but it does kick off at 1 a.m. PST, obviously for Europe, 10 a.m. CST. So go give Raven and Soddle a shout. They will be manning the desk that week.
We'll try not to pick too much fun of Raven and Soddle over the next coming weeks. Certainly, they're great friends of ours. They're doing a fantastic job in the Polish studio for the first 2 days of this tournament every week. So incredibly excited to see just what this tournament has to bring. And like you said, I'm excited to see the teams that maybe people don't know quite as much about. The underdogs coming into this. Yeah. It is 48 countries from all across the world. And these teams all have something to say coming into this tournament. They have something to fight for. And I think certainly the powerhouses like Russia and Germany, we have to watch those. Yep. But the little guys too. Belarus is in this tournament. Switzerland, Bulgaria, teams that we may know nothing about, like Indonesia, but have great players.
Yeah, and we're going to have a chance to tell those stories in the coming weeks, but that is going to do it all for all of us here at Burbank, California. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.